And so I did not understand anything that she was saying. But the only thing that I do remember was she was very, very distressed. And she was talking very, very fast. And she was just talking about things, and it was all jumbled. It was like, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of it just wasn't, I wasn't retaining it. A lot of it, most of it, I wasn't retaining because I didn't understand, and it was jumbled, and it was over my head. And the only thing that I do remember was she was talking about her boyfriend, something to do with her boyfriend. And the other thing was UFOs. She kept talking about how there were UFOs all over Los Angeles and nobody ever noticed because nobody ever looked at the sky. But I don't remember anything else that she was saying to me. And she talked to me for like an hour. And I mean, like, fast, talking and talking and talking for like an hour. And I can't remember any of it. And then I remember the next day, the guy that we mutually knew, who was a musician, I think he was part of this network because he kept telling her that she was crazy. And I knew she wasn't crazy because when we stopped at a restaurant and she was saying that there were these people following her, and she was like, they're here in the restaurant, and he was like saying that she was schizophrenic, telling her she was crazy. But we were standing in that restaurant, and one of those, she said, there they are. And one of the guys that she pointed at, when he walked past me, he like ran his hand along my back, all creepy like. And I just, I was really freaked out on the inside. I didn't let it show, but I was really freaked out. And I knew she wasn't lying because she had said that's what she said. And she didn't say it while we were standing right there. She said it when we were in a different location. She pointed at them. So I knew she wasn't crazy, and I was like defending her. And the other guy that was with us, the musician, kept just saying that she was crazy. And then the next day, he like wanted to meet me for brunch, and I went over there to meet him for brunch, and he was like, so what did she say to you? And he was interrogating me about what she had told me the night before. Like, he really wanted to know. And I didn't tell him, even though there wasn't anything to tell. I was just like, screw you, I don't have to tell you anything. So I just kind of was like, oh, she was talking about, I don't even remember what I said to him, but I was like, screw you, I don't have to tell you anything. That's what I thought. And I still think that. But I don't remember what she said. I just remember it was something about her boyfriend, and it was a lot of weird stuff, really weird stuff. And the only other thing I remember was the UFOs, how she said they were all over Los Angeles and nobody ever noticed. I think she was probably experimentee. And then a couple years later after that, she was murdered. I didn't find out she had been murdered until like recently. I didn't find out she had been murdered. But she was murdered a couple years after I had spoken with her. It goes on. All right, so later on, my theatrical agent sends me to an audition for a movie. I was trying to get into acting because I'd always done musical theater, and I was like trying to get into acting. And because I did all that stuff. I mean, I did pretty much everything. And I did the musician thing. I was a singer, and I started playing guitar, and I did the acting thing, and I did a lot of that stuff. But most of my work was through either singing or dancing, because that was what I did. I was trained in musical theater, and that was like most of the work that I did. But my theatrical agent sent me on this audition for this movie, and then I told you how the guy was like, oh, everybody else can go home, trying to like make it seem like, and then they had me sign this contract that they didn't want to go through the agent anymore. And the agent, oh, that was the other thing, the agent had screamed at me over the phone the night before. So it was this really weird thing, and the guy told me that I should just sit back and take a ride. They sent a transmission to my car radio. They started talking to me through my car radio right around that time. And I stopped listening to my car radio. I wasn't stupid. I knew that somebody was, I knew that it wasn't hard to send a, radio signal to somebody's car radio. So that part, I kind of was like, that's weird. And it freaked me out. But I wasn't stupid, and I never thought I was going crazy. Not ever, through any of this, have I ever doubted my own sanity. Because I know that I'm not insane. I know that what I'm saying is true, and I know what I've experienced. And so, I knew that incident, I knew. But then, right around that same time, or right after that, nothing ever happened with that movie. Even though I signed something when I was there, nothing ever happened. Nothing ever came of it, apparently. And then I don't know. I have no idea. Oh, another thing they did really weird when I was at that audition was they held up no, it wasn't a card. There was another guy there there were three guys. There was the guy that was auditioning me. There was another Middle Eastern looking guy. And then there was another guy who was just typical California looking older guy. And that guy was sitting behind a desk. And that guy told me to guess a color. He said he was thinking of a color and he wanted me to guess it. And I was just like, yellow? I didn't even think about it. I was just like, yellow? Because I didn't care. You know what I mean? And he was like, you're not concentrating. And he goes, this is really important. Imagine there's a chalkboard behind me. And imagine that I'm writing the color on the chalkboard. And I was like, whatever, okay. And so I did. I imagined the chalkboard behind him. And I said, and I did see, with my mind's eye, I did see on this imaginary chalkboard the word red, and I even saw the handwriting of the word. And I said, red? And then he had written down the color on a piece of paper, and then he held up the piece of paper, and it was the color red, and it was written in the exact handwriting that I had seen in my mind's eye. So this was some type of government operation. They were trying to recruit me or something. I don't know, or for experiments or whatever, when I was just trying to be an artist. And they ruined my job. I'm not going to get into all that, but they purposely would ruin my relationships with different people. They would, and I understand now that they do it through the phone and in the email, and they do through lies and rumors and stuff like that. But during that time also, I got a phone call from my mother, and I'm going to explain to you right now how I know for a fact that they have software that can record your voice and play it back sounding completely authentic, only saying whatever they want it to say. I was having a phone conversation with my mother this one time when I was in my early 20s, right around the same time that director called me for the interview. I got a phone call from my mother, and I'm having this conversation with my mother, and all of a sudden, and we're talking about, I need to, find a job, whatever, I'm going on interviews. And all of a sudden, my mother starts saying to me, well, you could go on dates for money. And she's like, you're young, you're attractive, you could just like go, and there are people who would pay you to just go out on a date with them. And I literally, because my mom, she'd never say that. Like, my mother is the most adamant, most freakish religious. I mean, she prays before every single snack and meal. She would not allow me to even speak to boys when I lived with her. I couldn't even speak to them. Never, ever could I speak to boys. I knew that wasn't my mom. At that moment, I knew that I was not speaking to my mother, but I didn't know about this technology. I had no idea about this technology. So I was completely freaked out. I mean, but I said out loud, I remember this, I was like, you aren't my mom. My mother would never say that. And I just was like, I gotta go. And I got off the phone, and I was so freaked out. But I didn't understand what was happening. I could not comprehend what was happening. And it wasn't until years later that I was working as an apprentice for a sound engineer. No, I take it back. This was a different circumstance. Anyway, I was with a sound engineer in his studio, and he was like, "Oh, you want to see something really cool?" And he showed me the software that can take a person's voice and play it back saying anything you want. He showed me the example with a pop star's voice. I won't tell you which one, but there was a pop star, and he took her voice and he made it say, I don't remember what he made it say, but I just remember everything kind of coming together in my mind and thinking, oh my God, that's what happened to me when I got that phone call from my mom. That really wasn't my mom. That was somebody using software to try to pretend that they were my mom. So, and this was in the 90s. So, this was in like the mid 90s that this happened to me. So I'm telling you, they are able to have conversations with you and you would not even know it. You would think you're talking to your mom or your dad or your best friend or your boyfriend or your girlfriend, and you could be talking to somebody that just has this software and they're calling you and pretending to be. So you really need to be leery about your phone conversations. I know for a fact this technology exists. They've used it against me. And they made that little mistake about my mom. Maybe somebody told them a lie about my mom or whatever, but they made a little mistake that caused me to realize. Or maybe it wasn't a mistake at all. Maybe somebody purposely did that to make me aware of what was going on. I suspect that there are probably people out there who are doing that, where they're purposely like making people aware that this is going on. But anyway, there's so much weird stuff. I cannot tell you everything, but there's just a few more things I want to tell you. So some really weird stuff happened like in the mid 1990s, where I freaked out so bad I had to leave Los Angeles, because at that time I knew the gangstalking was happening. Weird people were approaching me at the grocery store, at the library. Like I said, I just can't cover everything because there was just so much weird stuff. But they would like communicate to me they would have these license plates that would have things on the license plates that correlated to something I had said or whatever, and then it would like cut me off. The car would cut me off in traffic that had stuff on its license plate. Like the license plate itself would have a word on it that correlated to something that I had said recently. And they were trying to train me, program me psychologically to believe in vampires and stuff. They had me reading the Vampire Chronicles, and they also had me reading they had me reading this other book called they had me reading a lot of Richard Bach.